Hello and welcome to the She Reads Romance Books podcast, the ultimate show for romance book lovers looking for the best books worth reading. I'm your host, Leslie Murphy, and in each short episode, I share my favorite book list of recommendations so you know exactly what to add to your must-read list. Join me as I explore the romance genre and have fun collecting book boyfriends along the way, because life is better with a love story. Hey readers, today I'm continuing my series of episodes that focuses on my favorite book boyfriends. And these bad boys that I'm talking about in this list are more than willing to handcuff me anytime they want. These are my favorite police officer heroes from my favorite cop romance books that you are absolutely going to want to read if you haven't already. Are you ready for these hot heroes? Cue up that TBR list, my lovely readers, as I'm coming at you with the best cop heroes, and starting with Chase Keaton from Kristen Ashley's epic romance book, Breathe. I don't know about you, but I actually read less when I'm on vacation, and I guess that's because we're probably busy doing other things. But this past summer, we spent a week at the beach, and I started reading Breathe, which I'd picked up from the library. And I don't think I slept the entire night once I started it because I couldn't put it down, which I guess was okay that I was a complete zombie the next day since we were just relaxing at the pool and the beach, but it was so worth it after reading this gem from Ashley. Breathe is one of her epic small-town romance books that pulls in more than just the leading hero and heroine, but I'm focusing on the hero today, who is Chase. Chase is a cop in the small town of Carnal, Colorado, which is the basis for her Colorado Mountain series. I did read book 1 in the series, The Gamble, like years ago, but I wasn't lost by picking this one up, which is book 4, so you can absolutely read it as a standalone, FYI. But back to Chase, he is one of the good guys in what was once a police department filled with crooked cops. And because it was a crooked police department, he had to make some, not great choices along the way in his career, but he ultimately worked to bring down the bad guys and is seen as a hero in his small town, even though he doesn't feel like he deserves the title. And at the time, he was also blackmailed into a marriage by a really wretched woman who he did not love, and he married her to protect someone he did love, but he's now single because his wife was killed. And so there's this mystery sort of around her passing in the story as well. And then also living in the small town is the quiet and sweet librarian, Faye Goodnight. Now, Faye is a 29-year-old virgin who just never got around to giving up her V card because she instantly fell for Chase when she first saw him, probably, I think it was like over 13 years ago when he first moved to town, and she's been crushing on him ever since. So one very late night, Chase runs into Faye deep in the woods, and it's practically the first time the two have ever spoken despite living in the same town for so many years. And he's actually pretty cruel to her and tries his best to keep his distance from her. But the two of them finally end up growing closer because they start looking out for this young homeless boy, which, that was just a tearjerker story in and of itself in this book and reason enough to read it. But Chase instantly became my favorite book boyfriend because he's just that alpha male that I can't help but fall for. He's a bit broken, on the inside with his feelings of unworthiness, and yet such a protector of both Faye and Malachi. And I'll give you one of the best quotes of the book. I'll let you in, and this is, I should say the quote is from Faye to Chase. I'll let you in on a secret, honey. The knight who has serious chinks in his armor but never falls is the true hero. That means he's won battles and doesn't waste time polishing his armor so he can look good while he rides in parades that are tributes to his glory. He just drags himself back on his steed and keeps right on battling. And if he's the right kind of knight, he never rides alone. The best heroes inspire loyalty. The best heroes keep fighting the good fight, tirelessly, quietly. The best heroes always have scars. If they didn't, the heroine would have nothing to do. It's her job to help the hero let all that stuff go in order that her man can be strong enough to fight on. But when he's with her, he's free to just breathe. I mean, gosh, her prose is just amazing in her book. And that's just one snippet of why I loved this book. But another piece to this book that I absolutely love. So as a librarian, right, Faye absolutely loves reading romance. And Chase is more than willing to act out some of the scenes in the books that she's reading that get her all hot and bothered. And I loved it. And they were probably some of my favorite parts of this book. But there's really so much to love about it, including the hot cop Chase. So definitely check out Breathe by Kristen Ashley. Book 2 on my list of favorite cop romance books and police officer heroes is Things We Hide from the Light by Lucy Score. This small town romance already made my list of best romance books of 2023 as soon as I finished it, and that's because I fell hard for Nash Morgan, Knockamout's chief of police. This is book 2 in Score's Knockamout series, following Things We Never Got Over, which I highly recommend reading first because you not only meet Nash in that story, but because it also really sets the stage for this book where Nash is reeling from the aftermath of being shot in book 1. So the guy who was once, Mr. Southern Charm in this book is now really a shell of the man he once was. He's struggling with panic attacks and nightmares and just trying to get through the day, and yet he's struggling in silence, not really letting anyone know what he's dealing with. Then there is Lena, his brother Knox's best friend, who recently came to town for reasons of her own and secrets she's keeping. She moves in next door to Nash and ends up being the only one who makes Nash feel different and feel alive again with just a simple touch. But ironically, Lena doesn't like unsolicited physical touch or affection given her past and has no interest in a relationship. So this book keeps you on the edge of your seat, not only, with the mystery behind Nash's memory loss and his shooting, but with the development of Nash and Lena's feelings towards one another. I'll say that if you are a total sucker for romance heroes with wounded hearts like me, then you have to read this because Nash, fits it to a T. He would do anything for his town and takes his role as chief really seriously, but Score does such a great job of portraying a man who's normally a picture of positivity, but who is now suffering in silence with the depression after his accident. I love Nash, loved the series, and loved him and Lena together. It's a must read for sure. And good news, you can read it in the entire Things We Never Got Over series in Kindle Unlimited. If you haven't signed up for KU, then this is reason to get on that. Book 3 in my list of favorite police officer heroes is The Brave Line by Kate Stewart. There is some crossover in this book from Stewart's baseball romance books, which are Anything But Minor and Major Love, but it can absolutely be read as a standalone and is not to be missed. It's one of her earlier works, actually, and it follows Rowdy, a sergeant in the Charleston police force. He is a man who takes his job very seriously, which is getting, more and more dangerous. And he, puts that line in the sand where he definitely does not date where he works. However, he can't deny the pull that he feels towards Michelle, who is a 911 operator that he works with quite frequently and closely. Now, given the high stakes of both of their jobs, this book is intense. It really makes you, think about what police officers and 911 operators deal with on a daily basis, and it's, incredible. Rowdy, puts his life on the line in more than one occasion, and he ends up finding solace in Michelle, even though neither of them supposedly want a relationship. And if you're looking for a steamy cop romance book, then this is definitely the one to pick up because, whoa, these two are fire in the bedroom. Now, Kate Stewart's books never disappoint, and neither does this one, so highly recommend The Brave line. Moving on to book 4, featuring another favorite law enforcement hero, is The Maddest Obsession by Danielle Laurie. And gosh, Laurie, I think, is probably most known for her Maid series, of which The Maddest Obsession is book 2, and it is fantastic. This is one of those series that I totally binge read in 3 days max, book 1 through book 3, because I loved it so much. And I really rarely do that anymore these days, but it was so worth it to read all of those books. Now, The Maddest Obsession is, one of her mafia romance books, but it's also like an opposites attract romance featuring Christian Alistair, this seriously hot FBI agent in Guyana who is part of the mafia world. And just as the title suggests, you will become obsessed with these two flawed characters that end up having the best slow burn love story. Christian was such an enigma to me and just so captivating that I had to continue reading the story just to learn more about him. I loved how this feisty broken heroine could get under his skin and cool exterior. And when they both gave in to their attraction, it was just so intense and so good. Christian is also a bit different from the other cop heroes I've mentioned in this episode because he's more of like a, morally gray type law enforcement guy who actually has ties to the mafia world. He's not a dirty cop, but he's not really squeaky clean either. But this book really was such an intense, slow burn romance because this book covers years in the build up to their relationship. So the tension, once it finally topples over, is so incredible, especially when you're dealing with an obsessed hero. I loved Christian and the series, and you will too, so read The Maddest Obsession. Book 5 of my cop romance books with the best law enforcement heroes is Make Me Beg by Julie Criss. Now, this is book 4 in her Riggs Brothers series, and trust me when I say you're going to want to circle back and read all of the books and meet all of the brothers because they are so fine. But Make Me Beg is about Dex Riggs, the former dirty cop and ultimate bad boy. Dex was a cop, but something went down that we're not really privy to at the beginning of the book, and now he's back in his small town, and there's this air of mystery about him and about why he's no longer a cop. And he reunites with Lauren, who he had this one run-in with when they were in high school, but now she's newly divorced and really wanting a baby, so she boldly asks Dex to give her one. So, and if you did read any of the previous books in the series, Dex came off as this like mega asshole, right? But in this book, Chris peels back his layers and you see what's underneath, which is really a man who's super caring and willing to love. It's also a romance book with one of the best epilogues, which is always such a gift from authors. And honestly, I probably don't feel like I'm doing justice to this book, but trust me that you need to read it and will totally fall for this former cop, Dex. And so that's my list of favorite cop heroes to totally fall for, but I will actually end this episode with 2 books that I just finished reading and adored. And those are The Fake Mate by Lana Ferguson and Bride by Ali Hazelwood. These are completely different than these cop romance books, as they're both werewolf romance books, and you need to pre-order them both ASAP. Both books have the best characters and really engaging stories. And if you've ever heard of nodding in werewolf romance books or want to know what it is, then you need to read these. The Fake Mate and Bride, two of my favorite reads this month, and two new romance book releases coming out soon that I highly recommend. Check them out and check out all of these cop romance books, and happy reading. That's all for this episode of the She Reads Romance Books podcast. I hope you enjoyed it and found some new books to add to your TBR list. If you did, please subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. It really helps me reach more romance book lovers like you, and I appreciate your support. If you're a book boyfriend collector like me, then you'll want to join my email list so you never miss a podcast episode or a new book list. Just visit shereadsromancebooks.com/join and sign up today. As a thank you, I'll instantly send you my list of top 10 book boyfriends that will make you swoon. Trust me, you don't want to miss this list. Thank you for listening, and until next time, happy reading.